Hello, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Buenos días y bom dia a todos. My name is Roxani Rushas, and I'm the coordinator of the Youth for Climate Initiative at the United Nations Development Programme. And I'm joined today by my colleague, Pavel Faust, who you'll hear from a bit later. Thank you so much for joining this webinar to learn more about the Youth for Climate 2025 Call for Solutions. I should flag right away that this webinar, we have live interpretation into French, Spanish, and Portuguese. You can find your language of preference at the bottom of your screen if you click on interpretation. We have live written captioning available in multiple languages if you click on show captions. I'd like to give a big thanks before we start to our interpreters, Yara, Eloisa, Jordan, Noor, who have generously offered their support through United Nations volunteers, and also to Giulia Cesari, who is our Portuguese interpreter today. Note also that this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be made available on our Call for Solutions webpage throughout the application period. But before we get started, I'm pleased to introduce our colleague Roberta Ianna, who is a senior advisor at the Italian Ministry of Environment and Energy Security, who are the donor and co-lead of the Youth for Climate Initiative. Roberta, over to you for a word of welcome.
Thank you very much, Roxani, and welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. On behalf of the Italian Ministry of Environment and Energy Security, it is really a pleasure to welcome you to this webinar dedicated to the third call of solution of the Youth for Climate. And since its inception, Italy has been a proud funder and donor of Youth for Climate, supporting young change makers in addressing climate crisis. As you may recall, it all started in 2021 when we organized the first Youth for Climate event to bring youth voices and demands into the global climate agenda. And then in 2020, together with UNDP, we transformed this initiative into a structured global funding platform to empower young people, particularly in climate vulnerable countries, to implement and develop concrete and impactful climate solutions. Over the past 2 years, we have already seen incredible innovation and dedication from young leaders worldwide. And with this third call for solution, we aim to expand support, scale up ambition, and further strengthen youth-driven climate action. I encourage all of you to engage, ask questions, and seize this opportunity to be part of a growing global community committed to real change. Your ideas, your projects, and your leadership are key to shape a more sustainable future. So thank you very much for being here, and look forward to an inspiring discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roberta. And with that, we'll start our presentation today. And today's session is a complete guide to applying to the Youth for Climate Call for Solutions 2025. So I'll briefly give you a bit of an introduction to what Youth for Climate is and our offer. And then you'll be hearing from Pavel about all the details of the Call for Solutions. So what are the thematic areas? What are the eligibility criteria? What is the application process? What are the evaluation criteria? And what technical and other kinds of support do we offer? So let's get started. The starting point for Youth for Climate is really a recognition that children and youth are among the most deeply affected by both the causes and effects of climate change. And at the same time, young people like yourselves are leading the charge on a daily basis in your communities to address climate and environmental challenges. Despite your expertise and lived experience, you have likely experienced that you lack the space and resources to turn your solutions into reality and scale. As you may be aware, this is our third year running the Youth for Climate Call for Solutions, an innovation challenge calling on youth in 159 countries and territories to submit their proposals for funding. Through the first 2 editions, we've already provided direct funding totaling $2.5 million to 100 youth-led initiatives across 52 countries. Through the call, you can request up to $30,000 for your proposal, obtain accompanying mentorship to support your solution's scalability and sustainability, and gain access to opportunities to showcase your work and connect with other young innovators around the world. If you're joining this webinar, you've likely already signed up to the Youth for Climate online platform. This is a space for you to connect with over 21,000 young climate leaders around the world, exchange experiences, and access learning content. The platform is available in 104 languages and can now be accessed through a mobile application as well. Note that when you interact on the platform, you collect points and badges, and we'll be spotlighting top contributing platform members in different ways on our channels. So with that, I'll now hand over to Pavel to take you through everything you need to know about the call for solutions. And then we'll be making time for some question and answer at the end of the session. So do make sure to drop your questions in the Q&A function that you'll find at the bottom of your screen. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you so much, Roxani. Thank you, dear colleagues. Thank you, Roberta. But first and foremost, thank you all so much for joining today. Good morning and good afternoon. I see that we are over 400 participants, which I think makes the team very happy. And I will try to use this time to lead you through the application process and explain some of the general topics and ideas that we are expecting from you when you are submitting your application. For 2025, we have 6 thematic areas in the call for solution of Youth for Climate. 3 of them, the sustainable energy, food and agriculture, and climate and health, were also featured in the previous round. But digital for planet, climate peace and security, and nature for climate action are new topics for which we will also have dedicated webinars later in the next week. So please, if these are the topics that you are interested in, stay tuned and log in for also the calls. If you're interested in the previous ones, you can also reach out to existing resources, and we have webinars on both sustainable energy, food and agriculture, climate and health. Next slide, please. In terms of sustainable energy, again, there is an existing webinar, but please follow it and you can look at the context. We are looking for solutions expanding renewable energy adoption, leveraging modern technology, digitalization, and AI for optimized energy systems. We are looking for mobilizing innovative financing mechanism and scaling out decentralized energy solutions to reach communities that maybe are off-grid and do not have access. In food and agriculture, there is again a number of solutions that we are looking for, but among others, they are regenerative, resource, and climate resilient food production practices, interventions related to food processing, distribution, and consumption. For climate and health, we are looking to enhance health-inclusive climate planning and actions led by young people, solutions that can contribute to ensuring that health needs of young people and other marginalized groups are adequately met. And then in terms of digital for planet, again, this is a new topic. We are looking at use of frontier digital technologies, technologies that can respond to needs in specific sectors in terms of climate and protection of the nature, and also initiatives that leverage digital technologies to generate value shifts by transforming behaviors and narratives surrounding nature and climate crises. For climate peace and security, we would like to promote access to clean energy, water, participatory natural resource management, sustainable livelihoods. We are looking at enhancing social cohesion, addressing climate-induced displacement and vulnerability to violent extremism among youth, and we would like to support integration of youth returnees recruited by extremist groups back into society. Finally, under nature for climate action, we are looking at a broad range of solutions linked to ecosystems, conservation, and restoration. For all these thematic areas, there will be new calls taking place next week, so there will be dedicated webinars for which you will learn more in detail. Moving forward to who can apply to Call for Solutions 2025. we have a set of eligibility criteria that I would really like to draw your attention to. First and foremost, the call is focusing on individuals or entities, which can be NGOs, private sector, or individuals. But the key important part is that the project lead should be aged between 18 to 29 years old at the time of submitting the application. This year, the application can be submitted in English, French, Portuguese, or Spanish, and we welcome applications in all of these languages. In your application, you are proposing a budget that must not exceed $30,000. This is a very important piece of advice. It cannot exceed 30,000. And the maximum implementation period for a solution to be accepted into the call is 2 years. Your projects and solutions can be implemented in one of the UNDP program countries and territories. And last but not least, the applicants cannot be featured on the UNDP vendor sanction list. The list is available, you can double check. In terms of who can apply, as I said, you can apply either as an individual applicant or as an entity. If you're applying as an individual applicant, you should be aged between 18 to 29 at the time of submitting the application. And if you're an individual applicant, you will be the one who receives the funds and the support on your name and your account. So please keep this in mind. Whereas if you are a youth-led entity, you can be a civil society organization, a non-governmental organization, an NGO, community-based organization, or a private company. And as a youth-led entity, you should be able to provide your registration documents. So in some way you are registered in your country. This document you will need to provide in your application. You will also need to provide banking details that are matching the name of your organization that you submitted in the application form. So please keep this in mind. The majority of the organization's leadership needs to be between 18 to 29 in order for you to qualify as a youth-led entity. And last but not least, at least one team member should have at least 3 years of project management experience. In your application form, there is a space for all of this for you to provide details and explain. The project lead, the one who is submitting the application on behalf of an organization, should be aged between 18 to 29 at the age of submitting. The project lead must also be a national of one of the countries listed in the guidelines annex. This is important. So you need to be a national of a country in which UNDP provides programmatic support. Team members can be nationals of other countries other than those listed in the annex, but they cannot be a project lead. As I said, the application can be submitted in English, French, Portuguese, or Spanish. And the project lead should be able to communicate in one of those languages. This is again important because the project lead will serve as a primary point of contact with UNDP. So everything related to the project implementation, finances, monitoring will be led through the project lead. So the person needs to be in command of one of the languages. How to apply? For the application process, I would like to highlight that there is a Youth for Climate platform on which you need to register. On this platform, you are able to find call for solution guidelines, and this is a key document that you need to follow in your application process. What we do here today in the webinar is kind of an aid and a help in order to explain a little bit more what the application looks like. But please, first and foremost, register on the Youth for Climate platform, download and read the guidelines in detail. Further, you should also review the content of the application form. In the application form, you will see that most of it is filled online. However, there are 2 documents, a budget and work plan template that you need to download and you need to fill in and then resubmit to the application form online. Please keep in mind that the budget and work plan form or a template is strictly to be used, and you are not allowed to use any other format or structure that would, of course, disqualify your application. Then, as you are filling in your responses to the questions on the online application form, just try to read the questions in detail, think about it, and try to provide an answer that really replies to the question that you are being asked. Furthermore, another thing that you need to submit is a video between 2 to 3 minutes where you are presenting your solution. I will provide a little bit more guidance on what the video should look like later. And last but not least, do not forget to submit the application form. It is not only about creating a registration on the platform or uploading the documents, but you also need to submit, including the budget template and a video, everything in one document. So, in practice, let's say that we are all in the same page right now and we are at the Youth for Climate page. You will see that in the top left side of the screen, there is a apply. I'm indicating it with the yellow arrow. You can also choose a preferred language for the application interface to be in. And if you click apply, you will enter the application form. In the application form, you will see the deadline for the call for proposal. As you can see from today, we still have 75 days, but let me really highlight that please do not leave your application for the last day, because this is sometimes makes your life very difficult trying to finish everything in very last minute. As you enter to the application form, you will first need to do an eligibility check. You will be asked a couple questions to determine whether you can apply. Most importantly, as I said, the age between 18 to 29, and if the country of implementation is within the UNDP program countries. You will be asked to specify what type of applicant you are. If you are an individual or an entity, you will need to declare your age, country of implementation, and you need to confirm that you meet the eligibility criteria. Then please follow the purple button throughout the application process. If you do that, you will receive a congratulations notice that your application is eligible and you may proceed to the next stage. Please, at this point, you have not submitted your application yet. You only created the first part, so do not stop here. As you will notice on the second part of the screen, suddenly we have, next to the yellow arrow, 2 more new sections for your application. This is where you fill in your application details. So please read out all the questions and provide answers the best as you can for each question. Among the things that you will download from the platform is a project work plan. This is an example of it. So this is what the document looks like. It's bundled together with the budget, and you will be filling into the work plan how you plan to implement activities in your project. On this, let me also say that there will be a dedicated webinar this week on Friday, which will deal with details on how to do a project plan, how to do budget, and I highly recommend that you attend whatever category you are planning to apply for. I would strongly recommend to attend Friday's webinar as well. Moving forward, there's also the project budget, which again, this is an example, this is a template. You will download the same and you will fill in with details for your specific project and application, and then you need to upload back to the web page. Then I promised you that I will share a little bit more details about the video. So what does a great video look like for the Youth for Climate call for applications? It's really just couple basic items to keep in mind. First and foremost, please record your video in a quiet place with no background noise, no loud music. Before you send us your video, try listening to it and make sure that it's all clear and we can understand you. Your video should only include footage of the project team and demonstration of the solution if it's relevant. Please try to use this 2-3 minutes to showcase and explain what your solution is about. Your video should basically answer the question, what is the solution? What challenges are you looking to address? What impact do you expect to have? Again, as well, the video should be in landscape orientation. And last but not least, please do not exceed 3 minutes. And as I said, you can also put the video in different languages. So it can be in English, French, Portuguese, or Spanish. Now, coming back to the application form, I can imagine that when you first open it, it may look a bit intimidating. And the application form asks a lot of details, not only about you, but predominantly about your project, your solution, your idea, and what you plan to achieve. The purpose of the application is really, and those questions is really to understand your solution. It is both for you to have some kind of guiding principle, how you think about presenting your solution, but also for us and for the evaluation panel to understand what is your idea about. What is your project plan? What are your goals? What is the approach that you want to take? And what kind of impact you're trying to achieve? What is the impact on community and what is the impact on environment? What are the stakeholders, or how do you plan to monitor success of your project? At the same time, as I said, you need to ensure that there is the budget and work plan, upload it and complete. You need to upload a video about your project. And last but not least, you need to submit the confirmations or click and confirm the confirmations before submitting. There is multiple of them. The form will not let you go further if you do not confirm them. So please make sure all of the boxes are ticked. And then if you go to, you see several options. You have save and close, you have preview and submit. Here, why I mention this is because you can save and close your application and you can come back and edit it again until you feel comfortable and happy with your proposal. But then please make sure that once you are submitting the application, you are really sure you want to submit and it's your final proposal. Do not forget to submit. If you do only save and close, it is not submitted, you will not be considered. I also have a couple other things to keep in mind, maybe some of the mistakes that happened in the past and that you should pay attention to. Again, first and foremost, read the full application carefully. Make sure that you understood everything that we are asking. And also, if you don't understand something, there is an option to post questions to us, both now in the webinar, but also on the platform. There is a frequently asked questions and a Q&A window. So you might add more questions and you will receive a reply from our site. Additionally, in your application, you will need to state your age, your contact details, your ID, the identity registration, and the entity registration. All these documents are important for us and they will be checked for validity. So for example, if you are saying that you are 27, you also need to have documents on which you are actually 27. Everything needs to match what is provided in the application. If you are applying as an organization, please use the legally registered name. As I said before, you probably have some sort of registration in your country, so use the name that is on the registration, and it needs to be spelled out right, exactly like on the certificate. In the application form, there's also a word limit. Please try to use the recommended word limit and try to take the space and time and use it well to address exactly what you are being asked. Make sure that you are using the templates that are provided. Other forms will not be accepted. In terms of budget, as I mentioned before, it needs to be until $30,000. It's all inclusive and it needs to be in USD. Please make sure in your calculations that you are considering all the changes and options that can happen during the project implementation. It needs to be all inclusive and you are not able to receive more funds later. As I said again, there will be a webinar on this on Friday where you will learn a lot of useful tips on how to future-proof your project proposal and budgeting. So please attend it. But in any case, keep in mind that the budget is all-inclusive and it's $30,000 maximum. At the same time, if you are having some additional source of funding from elsewhere, this is of course okay and this is welcome. But any additional amount that is co-financed needs to be clearly mentioned in the budget and in the application. And the application process will give you enough space to explain what is the co-financing, and you need to clearly signal what is the source of co-financing and how this money will be used and how the money from Youth for Climate would be used in your project. Finally, please don't wait for the last day. I know I said we have over 70 days for the application, but you can save your progress in the form, revisit as many times as you like before submitting, but do not leave the application for the very last moment. Additionally, on the use of AI, it is not prohibited, but at the same time, we value originality. In this call for solutions, we would like to hear your own ideas. So please, while you can use tools like AI to make your proposals in some way enhanced, you really should reflect your own ideas, experiences, perspectives. Please do not forget that. And kindly declare if you use AI in your work, explain how it is being used in your creation process. Finally, we need to look at the evaluation criteria and the timeline for awards. So in terms of evaluation criteria, basically you're counting to 100 points or 100%, and the evaluation consists of several different categories. We look at the innovation. It is the call for solution for innovation proposals. So innovation is, of course, an important part of it, but at the same time, we cannot forget the feasibility. So it needs to be realistic. We also will evaluate what is the impact of your solution for the community and environment. In total, that counts for 30%. It is a very big part. Also, we look at the scalability and replicability. So is your solution something that can be grown, that can be replicated? And finally, also the work plan and approach. Again, let me highlight the webinar on Friday on all these parts. You will have a chance to learn more. Furthermore, you will be evaluated basically against, first and foremost, the eligibility, but then against these evaluation criteria. The evaluation panel is including multiple experts that consist from experts both from UNDP, from Italian Ministry of Environment and Energy, from other partner organizations, and we also have youth representatives within the panel. So we ensure that all perspectives, both from the experience, innovation, and also from the youth perspective, are included. In terms of the timeline for this call for solutions, we launched the call in February. Right now, we are in basically mid-March, and we are starting to provide this technical support for applicants. So there will be 4 more webinars, 5 in total. We call them deep dive sessions. You are in the first one today. And then on 26th of May, the call for application will close. So make sure that before that, your solutions are submitted. Throughout summer, the evaluation process will take place. And in autumn, tentatively in October, November, we will be able to award and announce the awardees. So in autumn 2025, the awardees will be known. Then for your own planning, new projects, in case you are successful, new projects will be starting in spring 2026. So basically we can look at 12 months from now. And finally, we also promised that we will let you know how you can get some help. We provide several ways of support, both in terms of technical support for your project proposal, answering questions regarding the call for solution. And there are multiple ways how you can stay in touch and reach out and receive this help. First and foremost is the deep dive webinars, as I mentioned. Stay tuned. In 2 days on Friday, we will have the proposal development, which will touch a lot on the budget and the project proposal, the evaluation, sustainability. And then next week, we will have the deep dives into the new topics. Furthermore, we will also provide online one-to-one support. So we will have peers that are able to provide you with some guidance on one-on-one support. This is coming. If you stay tuned on the platform, you will learn everything on how to get engaged in this activity. And then finally, on the platform, we also have the frequently asked questions. So you can submit your questions and comments either right now into the question box in the chat, but then also you can use the FAQ session within the platform, or you can directly write us an email on info@romecenter.undp.org. Thank you. Finally, I have a QR code here. If you scan this QR code, you will go directly to the Youth for Climate platform. This is your starting point for the application, for the questions, and also to reach the guidelines and to also retrieve the webinars such as today and all the other deep dives that are coming. Everything will be stored on the platform. So this is your one-stop shop for learning more about the call for proposal. Finally, let's stay in touch. Youth for Climate is on LinkedIn, Instagram, and on X. So you can also follow the QR codes here. And please stay in touch. You will also be updated on our social media. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much to Pavel for the presentation. We've been trying to keep up with the chat, so I must admit it's rather animated. Thank you so much for your interest and all your questions. We'll do our best to take some of them here, but as Pavel said, there is the frequently asked questions section on the platform page, where we will also add answers to any questions that we might not have time to answer today or that we might not get through. But I've picked out some of the questions from the chat, and while I go through some of them, maybe Pavel can catch up on what else has come in. One question that came in was around the stage of maturity of solutions. So is it okay to apply with a new idea, or what stage of maturity should the solution be at? There is no specification on that in the guidelines, so we welcome proposals at any stage of maturity, but as long as you put together a strong project proposal and you really demonstrate a solid project design. On the age question, which has been popping up a lot, and perhaps many of these questions were already answered through Pavel's presentation, but it doesn't hurt to repeat. So on the age question, the project lead must be 18 to 29 at the time of submission, meaning on the day that you actually click the submit button, the project lead who is submitting the application, in the case of individual applicants, that's the same person, should be aged 18 to 29. And if you're an entity, again, the project lead applying on behalf of the entity should be aged 18 to 29 at the time of applying, but also the majority of people in decision-making positions in that entity must be aged 18 to 29. And we have a section on the form where you can tell us more about how the entity is structured and why you consider that your entity is youth-led. On the question of entity, you'll see on the guidelines the types of entities that are eligible to apply, except for individual applicants, of course, who don't have a registered entity, are community-based organizations, civil society organizations, and non-governmental organizations, as well as private sector companies, always registered ones. So academic institutions, for instance, would not be an eligible entity type unless for some reason they have a registration as an NGO, CBO, or CSO. There was also a question around combining thematic areas. Can my solution combine multiple thematic areas? Yes, probably some of the strongest proposals will actually be working across some of these areas. But on the form, we ask you to identify one primary entry point for your proposal, so which you can basically identify one area that you consider is most strongly aligned with your proposal. There was a question around, can the same entity submit more than one, the same applicant, sorry, so whether it's an individual or an entity, can they submit more than one application? No, so each applicant can only submit one application. There was a question around co-financing. Do I need to show that I have co-financing? No, co-financing is not a requirement for applying. But if you do have co-financing, so if this contribution that you're requesting from Youth for Climate is going towards a larger project, where there are also other sources of funding, including maybe self-financing, you should indicate that very clearly on the budget. So the budget should be built around, you should tell us how you will use the funding from Youth for Climate, which, remember, this can be up to $30,000 US. How you will use the funding from Youth for Climate, but then you can separately indicate on the budget any sources of co-financing and what you plan to use those for, but make it very clear what the different types of funding would be used for. There were some questions around if you apply as an individual, are there any other criteria except for the age? Well, you still need to meet the other criteria in the sense that your project still needs to be implemented in one of the eligible countries, for example. All the criteria in terms of the maximum budget and the maximum project implementation period. If you're an individual applicant, on the form, you can still also indicate team members, right? So, so you may be working with some other people who have a complementary skill set to yours to implement this project. So you can also indicate their details in a dedicated section of the application form. The maximum implementation period Pavel mentioned is 24 months. Somebody asked, is there a minimum implementation period? No, but we'll note that one of the criteria is around the feasibility of the work plan and budget, right? So make sure that whatever you're proposing is feasible to implement within that time period, whatever that may be, as long as it does not exceed 24 months. And finally, among the questions I had noted, there was something around registering on the platform, who should register. So on the Youth for Climate platform, which is the main page that you will all have seen with information about the call, and maybe our colleague Lydia can help put that again in the chat. So this is the Youth for Climate community platform page with all the information about the call. Anybody can register to that, all your team members. It's open to everybody. And then from there, you'll be able to access, once you've registered, you'll be able to access the page where we provide the work plan and budget templates and the guidelines, which, as Pavel mentioned, you should review very carefully. And then on that page, there is also a link to the application form. And then once you get to starting the application form, there you should use the project lead's information. There will be a section for you to indicate all the information about the project lead. And if you're an entity, also there'll be a section for you to indicate all the information related to the entity, including registration documents, etc. That's all the questions I had time to note down. Perhaps Pavel's picked up on some other ones in the meantime.
Yes, thank you, Roxani. I also tried to follow up with the conversation. There is a lot of questions, but I picked a few of them that were repeating themselves a lot. I noticed there was a question about whether a government entity can apply. Unfortunately not. Again, I will send you back to the guidelines to please see what kind of entities are eligible. And also just a note on the government entity. If in case in your team, even if you are not a government entity, if you have someone in your team who could be engaged with a government, please, again, there is a section in the application where you need to disclose this and you need to explain the role of that person. In any case, there can be no conflict of interest. Then there were multiple questions on slides or minutes from today's meeting, if we will share the presentation. So this meeting is recorded. It is recorded in all the languages and it will be shared as a video recording on the Youth for Climate platform. So please, I think within a few days, you can log back to the platform. You will be able to see the video. We won't be sending out the slides or minutes. Then there was a question about how the funding is disbursed. So the funding is provided based on deliverables. So you're applying for a certain amount of money, and then you will be providing a project plan. So in line with the project plan and with deliverables and kind of milestones in the contract, you will be provided the financing in several parts. Finally, there was also multiple questions specifically on age and who can apply, who cannot. So if you are turning 30 in November, to be specific, that's still okay. You need to be 29 at the time of submitting the application. This question was repeating itself again and again, so please, you can again consult the guidelines. There was a question about how many solutions we are about to support. So the first 2 rounds of applications supported 50 solutions, and this year we are looking at the same, so around 50. And then there was a question if a new organization can apply, even if they do not have existing projects. Yes, if you meet all the other criteria. Let me highlight one of the criteria is that someone in the organization, the project lead, needs to have at least 3 years of project management experience. But yes, you can be a new organization as long as you meet all the eligibility criteria. And then there was also several questions on what stage of the project or solution you should be at. That references back to first answer of Roxani. It can be both a new idea or it can be something that has already some limited working and you want to be scaling. So it can be both a physical, to quote the question, it can be both an existing physical project or it can be an idea. Both of them are eligible to apply. Please explain in your application why your solution is to be supported, and you have plenty of space and opportunities to explain what you are going to work on and make case for your idea. That's from me.
There was one more question I saw, which was an interesting one on can the proposal cover multiple countries of implementation? Yes, there's no issue with that as long as it's actually feasible for you to implement activities in multiple countries with that amount of funding. On the form, you will be asked to implement them, to select one main country of implementation, but in the form, you should explain under the proposal related questions if you plan to create connections with other countries as well through your proposal. So in principle, one main country of implementation, but nothing prevents you from making connections to other countries if feasible within the budget.
I think this also goes back to the fact that we have 6 thematic priority areas, and you need to select one area for which you're applying. But again, you're also being encouraged to think bigger. And if you find some kind of way how you can contribute to other thematic areas as well, you can mention this in your application. I'm sure it will be useful and it can make your case stronger. But again, be realistic and count what is the resources, what is the time, what is the abilities and experience that you have, and try to explain in your application why your application is valid and why you are best positioned to implement this innovation.
I'm also seeing some questions around which countries are eligible. So there's 159 countries and territories that are eligible, so not so easy for us to paste those in the chat. Where you can find them is once you register on the platform page, you'll find the guidelines of the call, which are your first point of reference and which you should read in a lot of detail. And at the end of that document, there is the full list of 159 countries and territories. And also on the forum, you won't be able to apply unless the project is implemented in one of those countries. What else might we be missing, Pavel? There's so many questions.
There are many questions, but I think the general clusters we covered.
Yeah. So perhaps what we can do is compile all the questions that have come in through the chat and Q&A through this webinar and take the time to ensure that they're added to the FAQ page if we haven't been able to answer them during this session, so that you can go and have a look there.
I think so.
Do that? Yeah.
I think so, yes.
So thank you so much to everybody for joining today and for your interest in the call. We look forward to receiving your proposals and supporting you throughout the application period. Would you like to repeat maybe about the webinars that are coming up?
About the webinars,
Yeah.
yes, for sure. So similar to today's session, but thematically a little bit different. There will be a webinar taking place this Friday on the same time, so please tune in. This will be a deep dive into project design. So there you will be able to learn and improve all the all the practical parts on how to prepare your budget, how to prepare your work plan, how to have realistic expectations, and you will learn a lot of useful tips from colleagues from ICLO. And then also there will be a section on communications, which I highly recommend to attend. Then the other deep dives that take place next week will focus on the 3 new thematic areas. Again, the webinars will take place on the very same time. It will be on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You're very welcome to attend all of them, or you may just pick the one which is in the area that you are planning to apply for. And in case you cannot make it, all the webinars will be available on the platform. So as I said in the beginning, please use the platform as your kind of landing page or a starting point for all your activities related to the call for applications and Youth for Climate. You can find the frequently asked questions, you can find the application form itself, and you can also find the guidelines, which are your most important friend right now in terms of preparing your application.
Great. And thanks so much again to the colleagues from the Italian Ministry of Environment for joining us today, and for all our lovely interpreters for their support. And we'll see you on Friday. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.